Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today I'll be reviewing Becky, There Once Was a Little Girl. Directed by Jonathan Milott and Cary Murnion, who previously teamed up for Cooties. This movie stars Lulu Wilson, Kevin James, Joel McHale, and Amanda Brugel. This movie's about Becky, a young girl who's brought to her family cottage, where her father breaks the news that he's decided to marry his new girlfriend shortly after the passing of Becky's mother. Tension is already rising in the cottage, but what they don't know is they're about to be attacked by a group of escaped Nazi convicts who are after something Becky has and won't give it up without a fight. This is a recommendation from Scuba Steve over on Patreon, longtime supporter of the channel. He's been around for quite some time. He's recommended several movies, I believe, and this is one that I wanted to check out anyway, so that's an added bonus. I was impressed with the acting all around. It's really cool to see people like Kevin James, a comedian, shifting gears and playing something that is so out of his norm. He did such a great job playing this convict that you don't even make any similarities to his other roles like in King of Queens.
Oh, come on, you said you wanted to learn to scuba. When we were dating.
Of course I said it when we were dating. I was trying to make you think I went outside.
And that was something that I was hesitant about, because some people can nail it, some people can't, and I think that Kevin James did a fantastic job. The same can be said with Joel McHale. Most people know him from Community, where he's a little bit more upbeat, he's more playful.
And for your information, I don't have an ego. My Facebook photo is a landscape.
But in here, he's like a stern father figure who has to deal with the relationship issues that he's having with his daughter. His wife Kayla, played by Amanda Brugel, also did a really great job because she's put in a really terrible situation with a family that's kind of broken up a little bit, so you become emotionally invested in her and the rest of the family. But of course, the shining star is Lulu Wilson, who you've probably seen in stuff like Ouija, Origin of Evil, or Annabelle Creation. In this movie, she's kind of like this weird kleptomaniac, kind of like an edgy teen girl who doesn't really want to have much to do with her family, or at least the new family that's being imposed on her. And throughout the film, she becomes an absolute badass. And I think that's a massive highlight for this movie. You've got somebody like Lulu, who's just like a small young girl against this big, old, rugged Nazi guy, and she basically has to take on him and his goons to fight for her family. And in doing so, it kind of becomes almost like a Home Alone kind of thing, because she hangs out in her fort that's separated from the cottage itself. She sets up some cool traps and she tries to take down these bad guys. And that aspect is super fun. The practical effects are really on point, specifically like the ruler to the neck. There's just like blood gushing. There's lots of blood in this movie. There's not a lot of deaths, but what we do get is fantastic. And what's even cooler is Carly Morse, who was the prosthetic makeup designer, is actually a friend of ours. So it's neat to see her makeup come to life, and in a movie that features really notable people. So yeah, the kill scenes and just like how Lulu is so badass throughout the movie, it's very cool. Before we get into the dislikes, I did want to mention Robert Milott, who I immediately recognized as a longtime wrestling fan as Kurgan from The Oddities. He also did a pretty good job as one of the henchmen, Apex, who you're not too sure is 100% on board with Dominic's actions. He's reserved, he doesn't feel like this is the best way to approach the situation, and I thought it helped add some depth to, you know, seemingly cookie cutter bad guys. But speaking of cookie cutter, this story is just paint by numbers. It's very, very basic, and it was frustrating. This is likely only going to be frustrating for people that really dig into the movie and they're watching it with more of a critical eye. But the amount of movies that you see where you have a teenager whose mom passed away, and there's the dad who's got into this new secret relationship, and the teen just doesn't want to be a part of it. It's just like, we've seen this over and over and over again in so many movies. So Joel McHale's character and the whole family dynamic, you've seen it before, and it's just not that interesting. Well, I think Joel McHale did a good job with what he was given. Everybody's a paper-thin character, including Kevin James. He doesn't have a lot of depth because you're just supposed to hate him. And what's the easiest way to make you hate somebody? Make them racist. Put a big swastika on his head, make him a Nazi, and he's a bad guy. And you know what? If you want the most stereotypical way to really get people immediately pissed, have him and his goons kill a dog. It just seemed like the writing was very low tier. Every single concept is something you've seen rehashed over and over and over again for years, and so I just didn't really care about much of what was going on. Including one of the bigger gripes of the whole movie, which is Kevin James is looking for an object. This object is revealed to be a key that Becky has.
It's about this big. It has this symbol engraved on it.
She doesn't know what it is, she doesn't know what it's for, but she holds on to this and puts her entire family at risk because she just wants this thing. Sure, she's a kleptomaniac and she wants to keep things, and that's loosely explained in one line of dialogue towards the beginning of the movie.
You can't keep taking things that aren't yours.
Obviously, I can't.
But there's absolutely no reason why she would let her family potentially get murdered because she wants to hold this item that she has no idea what it is. An easy way to fix this would have been to say, oh, it was a trinket that her mother gave her before she passed. That's very cookie cutter, but it's something that would give her a reason to want to hold it. Something that she is holding on for her dear life because maybe it's the last tangible item that she has to remind her of her mother. Very basic stuff, but the value of the key is not explained. The point of the key is not explained in general. We don't know why Kevin James wants this key. He does kind of talk about it solving a lot of problems in a loose, like, racial way because he is a Nazi. He touches on this in one of his speeches, which basically talks about how it could fix everything. It's obviously a big metaphorical thing because if you're ever thinking of like a symbolic thing and you want to make a metaphor in a movie, the easiest thing to do is to add a key. Whether it has real value or not, it's just the most stereotypical object or item that you see in film that has some kind of fetch quest. To continue off this, I do want to acknowledge that I understand that we don't need to know exactly what that key opens or what it actually does. It's going to frustrate people, but that's not necessarily the issue. The issue is we need to know the power it holds.
I don't have your stupid key.
I never said it was a key, Becky.
It doesn't matter what it does. It needs to have a why. Why does this object exist? Why does Becky want it? Why does it hold such power for Kevin James? It's the why. Now, immediately after watching this, I went to Twitter and I posted about this. A couple people chimed in, including Desmond's Flicks, who's also a movie reviewer. I'll link to his channel in the comments. We had a back and forth about our differing opinions and all that, and Pulp Fiction was brought up as not describing the item, which is fine. It's the motivation behind the item that is important, and there was no motivation behind the key.
I'll tell them that I picked it up off the ground. I'll say you got away. They're not gonna ask too many questions so long as I had the key.
I'm not sure if people even care, if it's just like, whatever, it's just a reason for things to kind of go through the motions. But in order to be invested in Becky, you need to have some kind of logic and reasoning for some of her actions. Of course, she's a kid, so they're not always logical. There's a lot of like reasons why you can dismiss my dislikes here, and I completely see like all the sides. I get it. But for me personally, I want that motivation. Like, not having motivation suggests to me that the movie is just built to show off big moments, and whatever ties them together is just like afterthought. Of course, there are other ways that you can look at the story and say that it's super deep and it's talking about these racial issues and conflicts, which it does graze over, but it doesn't do it to the extent that it was intended.
Endurance, intelligence, strength, traits they were bred for. It's in their blood. That's why you never let them mate with other breeds. You get the worst of both.
Overall, this movie is pretty reasonable. The production value is good, the practical effects are solid, and it was great to see well-known actors take on unfamiliar roles. Lulu Wilson definitely has like a long career, especially if she sticks with the horror genre. She does it really well. She's able to adapt from everything that I've seen, so I'm excited to see what's next for her. Obviously, I've ranted about the writing significantly in just the story, so I don't want to beat a dead horse by repeating myself, but I will say that you might not even care. You might just like dismiss everything and just, it's a popcorn movie, take it with a grain of salt and then just enjoy it. Then you'll probably have a better time than I did. Unfortunately, even on the second pass, it just felt very paint by numbers. I forgot to mention it in my likes. I did like some of the cinematography choices, especially when it came to transitions during the opening sequence. That was really cool. But at the end of the day, this is kind of middle of the road for me. I did enjoy it a little bit more watching it a second time. So where I believe I initially gave it 2.5, today I will give it 3 choke slams out of 5. As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything Bloodbath and beyond.